Well, hello, beautiful people. I hope everyone is doing okay, everyone is well. I wanted to jump back in. My intention actually was to record this a lot earlier, but I wanted to give it a lot of thought. And I think, even though I'm still a little bit hesitant, and there's parts of me that is telling me maybe I should sleep on it and then have a response tomorrow. Um, tomorrow, today, later, whatever time you're listening to this. So after the live streaming concluded today of the podcast, which I spoke about King Charles III coming to Canada and opening Parliament, and give context and history and all of that, and what I was observing, what I was seeing, what I was feeling. Um, After that streaming was completed, I I felt okay. I'll be honest. I didn't feel anything weird or odd, but I kept going back to conversations that we were having, and I kept thinking, I'm missing something here, and I don't think I did a good job at explaining the intention of that episode. And me being me, my I started to feel very restless, right? Because when things don't feel right, it it it, it manifests a certain way in my body, in my being, and I felt it in my heart, deeply in my heart, and I thought, okay, this is what I'll do. I'll just go back and let me reread our conversations that we were having in the chat, and let me listen again to the episode, right? And I'll say in between that, then I received an email, and I read the email, and I received another one, and then I went to the comment section and started to read comments that was left. And before I say anything else, I want to say thank you. I think conversations are extremely important. I love having conversations. Love them, love them, love them. Even with the most difficult topics, I love it because it's an opportunity for people to be clear with their intention, to explain properly themselves, and for us to understand maybe a perspective that we might not have held before. But that, of course, is based on a two-way conversation, a three-way, 10-way, whatever, as long as the conversation is open, not close-ended. And that's the lesson I learned early on this podcast, because many of you, as you know, I wanted to, I don't know, tell everyone that they were wrong about Harry and Meghan, and that the Rangers, every untrue idea that they held, the misinformation that they had. I wanted to correct them, and I was going to tell them the truth, and everything was going to be okay. I soon realized that that was fantasy land. But getting back to this particular, I am not a person who will ever run away and hide from a conversation, because, as I said, I think they are the foundation of healthy relationships in every single way. Friendships, parents, friends, um, every environment. Communication is essential, and respectful conversation is really great. So some of you have expressed how you felt, and that feeling is disappointment, Some of you are hurt, and some of you are even angry. I take this deeply, deeply to heart. I also want to say that I hear you. Right up front, I hear you. I know that your comments are rooted in your care for this channel and for me. And I love that. And I thank you for that. I've sat with the words that were said, and I think I feel comfortable enough, even though I'm still debating it, really, to formulate a, a sort of response, hopefully, because it's a conversation after all. Um, this isn't me by any chance or anything like that trying to defend myself. It's not me backtracking. Um, but what I'm trying to do is to seek a deeper explanation, right? Because you deserve that. Because this channel, our channel, is built on truth. It's built on nuances. It's built on clarity and on community. This community is important to me. And I strongly believe that we stay in the room when things get uncomfortable. And it's okay for things to be uncomfortable. It really is. I'm not offended by anything. I I I know where it's coming from. I understand the root of it and the intention behind it. So I welcome it. So with all of that said, I wanted to perhaps walk you through the process and maybe why I made the choices I made, um, to basically tell you my truth, the way I sort of saw things. I began the presentation with the history of Canada, not from Confederation, but from even before that, before the Crown, from the governance, the strength, and sovereignty of indigenous nations across this beautiful land. And that was intentional. So, why did I do that? I wanted to ground the conversation in truth. Here is the truth. Because many times when we hear the history of a nation, the indigenous peoples are forgotten in that story, or the story is told a certain way that benefits the colonizers, right? So I wanted to ground our conversation on that truth, that the monarchy isn't just ceremonial, it has history, it has power, it has legacy. And for many, that legacy is rooted in violence, in harm, in displacement, in silence. Because you can't talk about the monarchy in Canada without reckoning with what came before it. The nations displaced, the treaties violated, the trauma of residential schools, and the intergenerational weight of crown decisions. I wasn't looking to tell or to give a history lesson because after all it's a podcast, and but I the intention was to to present that there is a history there that we must not ignore ever, right? So it's not a history lesson, it was a grounding for me, a reminder that the monarchy is not neutral and never has been. So I began with that not to contrast the king, but to contextualize the moment. Now, here is where things get complex, I think. To some people, the crown is tradition. To others, it is trauma. And both things are true. I understand that for many, the monarchy isn't just history, it's the violence, it's the harm, it's the silence around the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan. It's the betrayal of Princess Diana. It's the systemic gaslighting of Prince Harry. And it's the legacy of colonial rule in the Commonwealth, including the pain still, um, the pain that is still felt in indigenous communities, Caribbean, and African communities today. You've heard me speak before loud and clear about the harm done by this institution, about the way Megan was treated. I mean, this is what this channel is about, right? About Harry's courage, about the monarchy's colonial legacy in the Caribbean, in Africa, in Canada. Those truths haven't changed and they're not going to. This is why we have this channel. This is why we're here. But here's the truth that I wrestled with while watching the, the visit unfold, right? I even hesitated whether to do an episode on this or not because there was some wrestling in my system, and I kept thinking, okay, well, I don't know if I want to or don't want to. Let me see, right? And in Canada, the crown also functions as a constitutional symbol, a thread woven into the very way our democracy operates. And I wanted to hold both of those truths at the same time, the trauma and the structure, the monarchy as harm and violence, and the monarchy as a framework. Now, it's not an easy thing to do, but I tried, um, imperfectly, maybe. I wanted to explore how this visit symbolized something else also, right? Like it felt different. And that difference for me is that there's this whole geopolitical that that something, that constitutional something that was making this visit, this sort of 24-hour or whatever visit, feel different. King Charles wasn't just dropping by for the heck of dropping by. He was invited by our Prime Minister, or by the Prime Minister of Canada, during a time when the person that sits in the Oval Office, Donald Trump, loud and unhinged as ever, has been throwing insults north, blatantly disrespectful to our sovereignty, to our country. Trump called our prime minister a governor. He joked, maybe or not, about Canada becoming the 51st state. He disrespects borders, treaties, diplomacy. He treats these things as if they were optional. And that is not just rhetoric. That's an attack on our sovereignty of this country. But the thing also, here is the twist to all of that. He admires monarchy. He likes the king. He respects the idea of power that doesn't answer to the people. So, this visit, this moment, I felt like Canada was saying something. We were saying something, not to the people of America, but to the person in the Oval Office. Cut it out. We are not you. We are sovereign. We have our system. For good or for worse, it's our system. And we like it that way until we don't. We, the people of this land, will determine when and if we want to change it, not the person in the Oval Office. So, so yes, when when King Charles arrived, when people sang "God Save the King" spontaneously or were yelling it on the street, I'll be honest with you, I was taken aback. I was like, "What?" And then I thought, "Okay, so this is different because we don't do that. I've never before seen people just spontaneously start singing God Save the King, right?" So it made me start to think of the way I was looking at this very differently, but also reinforce this feeling that this is different. This feels different. And the people on the streets, well, the images that are being broadcast is also saying this is different. So I saw a symbol, whether for good or bad, it's a symbol within our system, our democracy, our own way of doing things. And in that moment, for just a breath of time, I was moved by that. I was moved by it. And you folks know every little thing moves me, right? But I certainly was. I'm not moved by the king, by the man, by that person. I'm moved by this sentiment that a foreign leader has made us feel as Canadians. So that's the context I was trying to put forth. Not admiration of Charles the man, but appreciation for what his presence represented in a geopolitical moment in time. Now, allow me to share some experience, some that perhaps maybe I'm sure I might have told you folks before. I tend to forget what things I say and don't say. But it was my first year of university, and I had managed to get into a prestigious write-in, creative write-in course. The professor, an American scholar invited on one of these special faculty terms, was known to be very selective. It wasn't easy to get into her class, and to my surprise, I was accepted. I was also, to my surprise, the only non white person in the room. That detail may not matter to some people, but if you've ever been the only one, then you know how it matters. You stick out, not just in skin, but in the way you sound, in your silence, in perceptions. You carry your story differently when no one else looks like you. And you also carry a responsibility because no one else looks like you. In the first month, we were asked to write a, a, a deeply personal reflection. And I chose to write about war. I had gone to a high school that gave me a gift. I didn't even realize at the time that it was a gift of proximity to people who had fled from war zones, refugees, classmates who had seen and survived horrors most of us will only read about, hopefully. Their stories haunted me, not because they were tragic, but because they were real, and because I am constantly, and I'm going to use the word fascinated, but it's not fascination. It's I don't know how to explain the human condition in which we are so cruel to each other. It baffles me. Now, my the headmaster of the school, the principal, he summoned me to his office. I don't know what better word to use. Summoned me to his office, and he said, "Antonio, have you seen the rehearsals for Remembrance Day for the assembly?" I had seen one rehearsal. Um, so I said, "Yeah, I saw one." He goes, "Every year we do the same thing, the same things we do every year." And he goes, "We talk a lot about the military and stuff, and that's all good." He goes, but something is missing. He goes, "Something is missing there." He said, "And I'm putting you in charge to fill that something that is missing. Write something." And I thought, oh. And at the same time, I thought, wow, what a privilege. Like, this is a man that I admire, okay? Because I love the way he ran the school. And he was so approachable. And he's asking, me, to write something? So I kept coming up with all this stuff. And no, I'll do this. No, I'll write about this. No, but I'll write about that. But then as I watched another rehearsal of Remembrance Day or Memorial Day assembly, I went straight back to my classmates and I said, their stories are not told anywhere here. Nowhere here. So I I took that challenge from the principal and I decided to write a poem. A piece that began by honoring the soldier, the man, the men and women who leave their their small town. Well, this the poem was it was a small town. Proud, hopeful, believing in the righteousness of their mission. But war changes you. And some wars, as we know, are not fought for justice. They are fought for ego, for oil, for empire, for the political ambitions of men who never bleed. They send your children to bleed and die. They don't send theirs. You see? So in the poem, the soldier is trained to obey. He he wears a metaphorical blindfold that 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 represents in some way the training that tells him not to question orders. But then in the middle of war, the middle of battle, he hears a voice crying out. He quickly realizes it's the voice of a child. And with much hesitation, he slowly garners the courage to take off the blindfold. And in that moment, he sees a family, scared, trembling, in shock. He sees a village. He sees people, just people. And the line he speaks after that sort of pause as he's looking at them is, "Oh God, what am I doing? Oh God, what am I doing?" The poem ends with the soldier's sort of breakdown, his reckoning, and then three short reflection stories from my former classmates, refugees who shared what war looked like from the other side of the gun. The final line of the piece was very simple. All I said was, we should always seek peace. We should always seek peace. I read that piece aloud in that class in university. I had not expected what came next. A student, tall, athletic, aggressive, sort of like a linebacker out of central casting, stood up. He shoved his desk to the side. He walked directly towards me, and I can see, onto this day, right now, I can still see the waves of anger emanating from his body. And with a voice that was full with spit, he raised his fist towards my face. Anger, rage. He threatened me as his mouth is spitting violent words and spit all over my face. He said I had insulted his family. His great grandfather, his grandfather, his father are all soldiers who fought for my effing freedom that I did not deserve because of what I just read. He told me I did not belong, ungrateful. He told me the only reason he didn't hurt me right there and then was because I was not worth him getting kicked out of university over. As the spit continues to inundate my face, trembling with rage, I, I, I said nothing. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I knew if I said anything at all, something would explode. And in that moment, I expected the professor to intervene, to say something, to restore some kind of order, to defend me. She didn't. She looked at me with a kind of disgust I've never forgotten, as if I had brought this on myself, as if my words had deserved such treatment. I, I was terrified. I was embarrassed. I wiped the spit off of my face. I didn't know what else to do, what else to say. I just sort of sat there in shock. I didn't understand how speaking the truth, even with reverence for soldiers, could warrant such violence, and how others just sat there and said nothing. How the person, the esteemed professor, looked at me like I was disgusting. The poem did not mock soldiers, it praised them. It questioned leaders, not legacies. It raised the voices of people whose homes were bombed, whose childhoods were destroyed. But that wasn't what he heard. And it wasn't what she saw in me. I'll tell you, I tried to stay in that class because I became stubborn. I became sort of like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove to you. But it didn't matter what I wrote, it didn't matter. I always got the worst grade in the class. I've never seen grades like that in my life. It was made very clear to me I wasn't welcomed anymore. I don't know if I was welcomed at all at any given time. So before those grades could be registered, I I quit. I licked my wounds and moved on. But I never forgot that experience and I will never forget it. I never stopped writing, as you folks know. And also, I never stopped speaking for those whose voices go unheard. This channel is because I thought there was injustice, and there is injustice with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. And I thought, I'm going to add my voice to this conversation because it's not right. Now, it's human to hold a very different perspective on something based on your experience and interaction with that something, right? because our experiences are different. Even within our own families, sometimes our experiences are different based on a whole lot of crap. But I'll tell you this, I do not believe for 1 minute that we have a disagreement here. I don't believe we do. I believe that we are saying the same thing, we believe the same thing. I just did not frame it right. I didn't frame the way I was trying to tell that story correctly. Now let me tell you another story to illustrate the point I'm trying to sort of convey. A few years ago, when I was teaching, so I got into the unit where we're teaching about human origins, evolution, creationism, indigenous worldviews. As soon as I said the word evolution, my students started to, Antonio, can I go to the bathroom, please? Excuse me, Antonio, can I go to the bathroom? Sir, I need to go to the bathroom. By the time we got to the sixth person asking to go to the bathroom, I was like, hang on a second here. What's going on? And finally, one of the students, he stood up and he said, Antonio, you know we like you, right? Like you're like awesome. You're like one of our favorite teachers because you care about us. But we're not going to sit here in this class where you're going to tell us that we come from apes and monkeys because we don't. Now, the area where I was teaching, where the school was highly Catholic, Portuguese, Italian families. Now, I realize in that moment, I was like, okay, I get it. I see what's happening. I had a choice either to be, the conventional teacher. And I thought, nah. So I said, listen, I'm not going to teach anything today. If you have other work for other classes, please do it. But if also you want to leave, I'm going to allow you to do that. But tomorrow, no one is allowed to leave. No one. And the next day, if I remember well, this is what I said to them. I said, my job isn't to tell you what to believe. My job is to tell you what's out there. And if any teacher is telling you this is what you need to believe, question them. Question them because that's a bad teacher. Because you're no longer teaching. You're doing something else when you're telling a student they need to believe this. I said to my students, I said, evolution, creationism, indigenous teachings, even alien theories, I want you to know them all so you can find and think for yourself. I want you to be able to defend what you believe in. I want you to grow. In order for you to defend what you believe in, you need to know what other people think. But also, you need to develop the case to defend your point of view. I'm here just to give you the information, right? And I'll tell you, the next few days, it was such a good conversation with each and every one. Like, I mean, there was some joking around here or there, but there was respect for the conversation. Now, let me get back a little bit to what our main topic here is about. You know, Quebec, a province with a deep separatist movement. I studied in Quebec, and I loved being there. And I'll tell you, after a month or two, I I was I was like, yeah, I don't know about the rest of Canada, but I'm not Quebecois, and we should separate. It was very brief, but a province where many have campaigned to leave Canada entirely. But after Trump's remarks, it was Quebecers who were standing in arenas, singing out loud and proud, "Oh, Canada," with passion. And yes, some booed the national anthem of America. I don't condone that, but it says something. And the booing of the anthem wasn't about the people in America. It wasn't about our brothers and sisters in America. It was about the man in the Oval Office. Now, some Americans didn't get that. We're like, no, no, no. We're not booing you. We're booing that orange person. We're brothers and sisters, man. But that came out of Quebec. If people who normally don't even want to be Canadian are rising up to say, back off, then that tells me this moment that we're experiencing pierced something deeper in all of us. This wasn't for me about Charles. Yes, I made commentary here or there about he seemed emotional in some parts. I'm going to tell you folks what I see, or what I observe, or what my thoughts are. But it wasn't about him. It was about monarchy. It was about our sovereignty and that relationship. And what does it mean? I think I said somewhere that towards the end, I'm like, it's up to us to make that decision. What does it mean to us? Yes, he came, he did his thing, he's gone now, and now it's up to us. It's not up to the person in the Oval Office. It's us. It's ours. And that is what I was trying to convey in some ways. Let me be very clear. I have not forgotten what he represents, what he's done to the Princess of Wales, Princess Diana, to Meghan, to his own son. I have spoken very vocally about the, the failures of the monarchy and its silence, its cruelty, its obsession with control. That hasn't changed, and it's not going to change. But in this particular moment in time, I made a choice. I look at the crown not as the representation of a man, but as a symbol of how our parliamentary system, parliamentary system works, of the role of constitutional monarchy within this country. That's what we have until we decide to change it. of what makes our system not like the American system. And it's only up to us to call for change, not for anyone else, not for anyone else to insult our country, to insult us. This channel at times is a fan page. It challenges the narratives of the tabloids and shows that frame every story to benefit the monarchy and paint Harry and Meghan as these awful, evil people. And we work against that here to change that narrative, to call them out. This is also a space for storytelling, for understanding, and for sometimes sitting in discomfort of layered truth. Look, if my tone felt too soft, too generous, I I hear you. I hear you. It's who I am also. I'm consistently looking for the humanity in people. It's sort of like I need to see something. I know you're all these things, but is there something redeemable about you? Many times I don't find it. But I'm going to ask of you is hopefully you see the intention behind what I was trying to do that I did not do very well at. To understand the lens I was using. For me, it was beginning to come or become clear is that we actually do agree. We fully agree. We're saying the same thing about sovereignty, justice, and the harm done by institutions like the monarchy. But maybe the way I framed it didn't carry the weight of that truth properly. Maybe I leaned in way too far into the symbolism and didn't spend enough time with the pain many feel, that many still hold, and rightly so. I hear you and I see that now. I want to thank you. I'm gonna wrap it up because I'm losing my voice and um this has been a really, really valuable conversation. Valuable conversation. You've made me actually remember how we can experience the same thing and come out with very, very, very different feelings. So thank you for showing up. Not just to have this conversation, to have the critique. Because we stay in the room. We don't run away from these things. Because this community doesn't exist to flatter a king. It exists to hold power accountable and to remind the world that behind every title, every throne, every flag, there are people. There are people who hurt, people who resist, people who deserve to be heard. So let's keep doing what we always have done here. Let's hold the space always for multiple truths. Let's lead with clarity. And above all, let's keep choosing each other to have these conversations, to not shy away from them, to open up ourselves to embracing each other. Because as I said, we could have experienced the same thing and come out of there feeling very differently about it. But I dare to say we are on the same page. We are on the same page. My framing of it did not do a good job. I'll continue to do better. I love you folks. Okay, I'm going to go make myself some tea now. Ah, I thought this conversation I was going to talk. I just sort of, I was like, yeah, maybe 10, 15 minutes. How long have I been talking for? Um, Gosh, if it's over an hour, I'm going to slap myself. It likely is. Yes, it is. Okay. Thank you for all of you, any of you who actually sat through this. Thank you. Love you. Take care of yourselves. Be kind. Okay. Bye for now.